Real estate is my main business. I've been doing it for 20 years. In fact, to me, it's not more like a business or a job, it's a passion. When the history of Mombasa is written, on the history of real estate, Mwenda Thuranira will feature somewhere. As population grows, according to the research, they say by the year 2050, 50% of Kenyans will be living in urban areas. The next 10 or 20 years, you'll see a lot of apartment development in the CBD. So eventually, I got a partner. I had not gone to ask for investment from him. I went for a connection. Then he told me, how much money are you looking for? I told him 20 billion.
20 billion?
20 billion. It took me 5 minutes explaining to him. He stood up and said, we're in business.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Financially Incorrect. I am your host, Barrack. So this must be episode 1, I think between 115 to 120. And yet again, we've brought another interesting money story for you guys today. This is from the CEO of MySpace Properties. His name is Mwenda Thuranira, and he's also I guess I would qualify you as a real estate developer, an experienced real estate developer.
Yes.
Welcome
correct.
to Financially Incorrect.
Thank you so much, Barrack. Thank you for having me.
Yes. Are you looking forward to sharing your money journey, money story?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah?
I mean, we have this information because someone shared with us.
Yes.
So if we don't share, we'll not be doing them justice.
I hear you.
Yes.
I think I guess before I start this episode, one thing I found really interesting in the journey of Financially Incorrect, when we started, I think people were, especially the guests who would come, were still very apprehensive about sharing figures and sharing, because people don't really talk about finance even now. It's still
taboo, yes.
It's difficult to get in the conversation. But I think as time has gone and as more and more guests have come on board, I think it's gotten a little easier. And even from the guests that I sit with, even the ones who come and just say, it's hard for me to talk about figures because of X, and X, but I will share what I can and see, the elements I can give. So, so I guess whatever elements of your story that you're willing to share or that you're open to would be great. And our audience, I'm sure, will be able to learn or pick a thing or two, including me. My first question, non-finance related, completely left field, is what secrets do you think remain in the world that haven't been uncovered?
What secrets?
Yes. What secrets do you think remain?
As far as making money.
No, in anything. Anything across any topic, any theme.
Okay. The secrets, I think they are most of the things which are there, in the next 10 years, they'll be obsolete. So basically, we have more and more to cover. You see, like when it comes to technology, it changes every day. Look at M-Pesa. It has changed the way business is done in Kenya, and I believe it will happen worldwide. Look at sliced bread. It was not there. But now, can you imagine cutting the bread by yourself?
Yes.
So, I mean, the innovation, as more challenges come, the more innovations will be there.
Yeah.
So it's just being able to sort a problem.
Yeah.
For example, like now you said, secrets which are there, they have not been uncovered. Like this product I brought for you today. This is called African Magic. It's a deodorant, natural deodorant. It's a stone.
It's a stone.
It is a stone, which you just apply water and apply to your armpits, and you stay fresh all day, no odor, no sweating. How many deodorants do you buy in a year?
Probably, give or take, I'm going to say 6, I think.
6, exactly. So every 2 months.
Every 2 months. I think every 2 months.
Yeah, now this, if you're using it by alone, it can go up to even 2 years. If you're using it by yourself, as a couple, it can go to...
Do people share deodorant?
Couples share everything. If you're sharing bed... So, like this particular product...
Then can I have a look at it? Interesting.
Yes.
Yeah.
No.
It is heavy. It is heavy.
It's a stone.
Yeah.
It's a natural stone. Even no smell, no what.
Yeah.
It's a natural stone.
Interesting. So how did you even find this stone?
So now I was...
And find out that it should be deodorant.
In fact, now I was talking to a neighbor of mine. And I was explaining to them. She asked me like, what is it bothers you in your office? Like, unajua my guys are in the field every day.
Yeah.
Na jamaa wakitembea huko wakikuja kwa
Bio.
ofisi majasho nini, akikukaribia tu unasikia hiyo hoda
Right.
ya sweat. So she told me of this stone she's been using it for many years. And you just pour water, you apply. So she bought me some stones to take to my office. So I kept on asking myself, if this stone is working wonder, I've been using it for the last almost 2 years now. If it's working wonders like this, how comes it's not commercialized?
Yes.
So I went to do research. So I went to Google. I found out that it's used all over the world. But here in Kenya, very few people know about it. Just a few. So I decided, why don't I make it a product and introduce it to the Kenyan market?
Yeah.
And there we did. Now we have a
Alum deodorant.
Alum deodorant.
Right.
Natural, keeps you fresh all day.
And is this on the market now? Is it?
I see the market.
Yeah.
We are selling it online. We have a website. And
how is it going? I mean, do people... Okay, now, I've sat with you. You've told me the story.
Yes.
And I sort of believe you. But in terms of convincing people that, it's a stone and it works and it would work for your... as a replacement for your chemically induced deodorant, so to speak.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, of course, whenever I explain to anybody about it, whoever I've given, they always tell me, give me more for my family members, for my son, for my workmates and stuff like that. Since it's people are more into organic and natural stuff. Like now, deodorant, you don't know what chemicals are there.
Yes.
And when you apply deodorants, actually, it blocks your pores
from
sweating.
Yes.
So it does. It suppresses. That's why you have people have get dark or their underarms, the irritations. Since this one doesn't have chemicals, I mean, it's all natural.
I've heard this though from my wife's family friend who had come from the States, and she had been... I think she was talking about how she's now also using natural deodorant.
Yes.
Or natural deodorant. And she was saying though, there was like a 1 week or a 2 week phase when she was transitioning where she was heffing, or there's like your body takes a bit of time to sort of adjust to this new product that you're using. Does that also happen with this?
No, but this one is immediate.
Yeah.
Yes.
You don't go through that
No.
nini
You
phase
don't go
of
through
transition
that.
phase, so
You
to
just
speak.
paka maji, paka yourself, you're
good
good to go.
And how much does it go for?
It costs $9.99.
$9.99.
Yes.
Okay.
How much does your deodorant cost?
529 shillings.
And you're buying 5 of them or 6 of them per year.
Six. I'd say 6 to 8. Yeah.
So you see the saving you're making here.
Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Okay, interesting.
Yes.
Maybe on the same question, I want to ask you that question specifically with regard to your industry. What are the secrets, do you think, that haven't been uncovered yet?
In the industry, of course, for example, right now, when you look at real estate development, I mean, right now, we are thinking of how we'll house the future generations, especially the Gen Z, the millennials, the Gen Alpha. All these ones have different needs. For example, now, if you look at our parents, they were more into having a compound, a big compound. Maybe the mom would want to have some garden somewhere. That was the traditional way. But now when it comes to Gen Z, when it comes to housing, they are more into this mixed-use development where they live in apartments, they work there online. So Wi-Fi is very important for them. Of course, convenience of having a gym, a restaurant or a clubhouse for community purposes, and a restaurant for meeting purposes. Most of them work in their computer on their phones. So going forward, we are looking into more smaller units, more manageable units. I mean, the starter homes. We have also seen a generation whereby when you want to start off your kids, you investing in a small unit, let's say a 1-bedroom apartment, which you can give to your daughter or your son, and they can start from there. Then if they want to expand their family, that's up to them now. So you give them a starting point. So there are a lot of parents buying for their children in this mixed-use development, and that's almost the future of real estate. Also, another one which has not been discovered is city living. like in the next 10 or 20 years, you'll see a lot of apartment development in the CBD, which is not happening. If you look at around Nairobi right now, the developments are happening in Westlands, Kilimani, Karen, Muthaiga, Runda, and all other places. But now for these new generations coming in, they don't want all those compound and stuff like that. They just want a place to sleep and work.
So you reckon that in the next couple of years we would have residential apartments and residential spaces
in the CBD? In the CBD. Yeah. If you look at the rest of the world, what happens? If you look at like Hong Kong, Brasilia, if you look at New York, Manhattan, living in the city is prestigious compared to living in the countryside, in the suburbs.
Yes.
So also that one will catch up here in Kenya, especially due to this young generation.
Yes.
They want whereby they can walk to the restaurant. You realize the young generation, even they are not much into cars. They operate with Ubers and they don't need parking. And they want everything at one place. Yes. Like I've told you about the gym, about that sense of community.
Yeah.
Community living is very, very important, where they can network with their neighbors, work with their neighbors, even get married to their neighbors. That's the kind of situation we are looking at.
A question as a real estate developer, and I know you're not, or I don't know whether you're into urban planning in any way, but I have a question for all the developments that we're seeing, and specifically around like Kilimani, Kileleshwa areas where there are huge residential properties that are coming up, huge residential properties, but the road network isn't improving. If anything, it's in decline. I on Twitter you'll find people in Kilimani, Kileleshwa complaining about water supply and all sorts of things. So I'm asking a question on two perspectives. One, what do you think is going to happen? So like I know, for example, like in Kileleshwa, I'm very bad with like road names. I only know landmarks. So right after, I think as you're going towards the police station, there is, before you get, there's a corner you take, then you go down towards Kileleshwa police station and then Kenya High. And right on that corner, there's like huge white complexes, like two huge ones. Look like they could take, I don't know, easily maybe 100 units. And I look at that road and it's one way. Very narrow, and already there's so many people in there. So I'm wondering, what do you think will happen to like Kilimani, Kileleshwa in the next couple of years from a population density perspective, and just being able to manage the people who will be living in those areas? And then two, as a residential developer or as a real estate developer, what are the things that you're taking into consideration when even wanting to build some of these entities? Is it purely just based on profit and saying, this looks like it will make money, I'm not concerned about what's going to happen in the next 5-10 years. That's for the city to figure out. I'll build this thing, I will sell my units, and I'm good. Yeah.
Of course, urban planning is very important. And as you know, development brings development.
Yeah.
And especially water, there'll be a water issue in the future in Nairobi. Especially now people are doing borehole. And then there's a limit. If you do many of them, even the ground can be unstable for those big towers. So, of course, with the infrastructure, that lies on the government side. But if you look even many years ago, Nairobi town was there were no skyscrapers like they are today, but it works. Correct? Although there is that problem of jam,
yes,
which I agree with you, but it works. So the market has a way of recollecting itself. But it's good to have planning. That's why, like, I have some great respect for some guys in New York. You know, the master plan of New York was done almost more than 200 years ago. So that means somebody saw the trains.
Yeah.
Remember that time they were in donkeys, There were not even cars.
200 years ago, yeah.
They figured out there'll be trains, there'll be cars, there'll be airports, and there'll be all that. So with that kind of foresight thinking and planning ahead, that really can help. But as far as we are concerned now, I mean, our population is still not much. Nairobi is a city of 5 million people. Look at big cities in the world like Karachi. Karachi has 20 million population and it operates. So these things, by the end of the day, they will correct, but there's a need, of course, of government putting more infrastructure. Since people who are developing, they are paying approval fees, which is not cheap for those big developments. So that money should strictly go into putting the infrastructure in place, like sewage, the power, the roads, and the walking lanes for pedestrians. I mean, that would be very important for the government to be able to do that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So as a person who's, I guess, in the real estate, as a person who's putting a project, for you, it's the business case purely. You don't take into account. You leave the government or whatever powers may be to deal with the infrastructure and everything else that needs to be set up.
Of course, by the end of the day, you have to make sure the building is self-sufficient. For example, you have power, you have generator, you have sewage. Sometimes we do even septic tanks, as in case the sewage has a problem. You have to make sure, since, I mean, we are in this business for a long time. And when we do like a building, we are doing it maybe for 100 years to come. So you should think long term to your own planning. But whatever the city is planning, now that one you have no control. Of course, whatever you have control of is what you plan for and you plan with. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, let's get into money. Let's get into money.
Yes.
I'll start with, and this is a sort of discussion we had started before we started recording. There's you call it a myth.
Yes.
The myth that it's cheaper to buy your own, to buy a piece of land and build a house yourself than it is to, work with a developer or a developed entity and sort of, pick stuff off plan and things like that, or buying a ready-made house. Can you tell me your thoughts and why you said it's a myth and not a reality? Yeah.
Yes, of course, I'll tell you it's a myth because, number one, when a contractor, a seasoned contractor, the preference at the site is 25%. 25% of things get stolen.
As for a seasoned contractor.
A seasoned contractor.
Yes.
Now I'm thinking of somebody, maybe like you. You have no time to be at the site all day. You don't have the systems and whatever. If you do it yourself, what percentage will you lose? What percentage? 50, 60%?
Possibly.
Okay, so now what does that do to your cost?
Inflates the cost.
It goes up.
Yes.
Then, of course, you are not a profession. You don't have the time to supervise. And that's why sometimes even we have building falling down and stuff like that because of lack of use of professionals. Sometimes you might tell a fundi what to do and they just go with what you say because you are the boss, you are the employer. But it's not the right thing to do. And again, even when it comes to planning, by the time you are done with designing the bedroom, the kitchen, and the sitting room, especially the kitchen, you'll have a fight with your wife. So that's another angle of it, since you can't get to agree.
Yes.
So what I've seen, if you're not an expert, if you don't have the time, it's good to buy something which is ready. You go look at it. Both of you agree on issues. You look at 4 or 5 properties, then you make a decision. And you can also get a mortgage on it on a ready property. So for me, for somebody who is not an expert, I always advise it's good to buy something which is ready. And again, when it comes to building, remember, like, for example, for myself, I cannot build for myself because it takes the same time to plan for 1 unit and the same time to plan for 100 units. The only thing is the numbers. I mean, when you're doing just your unit, same meetings, same architects, same engineers, you'll have to sit them down. So would I be focusing on doing 1 unit or 100 units? So to me, I'm more into, if you're not an expert, just go get something which is ready, choose, you have many options in the market, and buy something ready to go.
Yeah. That makes sense. Okay, I hear you. What's your most interesting money story?
The most interesting money story.
Yes.
Okay, of course, if all the money was corrected in the world, maybe from Saudi Arabia, from America, from Japan, from Africa, if it was corrected and shared amongst everybody equally in the world, what do you think will happen in 5 years?
They said that I think the theory is that the people at the top would still find a way to get to the top, right? If you took all the money in the world and divided it among everybody in the world, those who are wealthy now would still be wealthy, would be the ones who would be wealthy in 5 years to come, right?
Yes. So in reality, in 5 years, the money will have gone back to the people who had it.
Yes.
And this is why I really believe it's about being able to make money, the ability to make it again and again. It's not about having it. I mean, things can go south. Then what will happen? Sometimes you see even like entrepreneurs, you see they're down, they have gone broke. Within the next 1 year or 2, they're back again. Since they know how to make it. They know the secrets, they know the formula, they know what they have to do to make it again and again.
What's your formula for making money? What would you say your formula for making money has been? I mean, clearly you're venturing into other industries.
Yes.
So, what would you say your formula is for making money?
My formula, what I would say is real estate is my main business. I've been doing it for 20 years. In fact, to me, it's not more like a business or a job. It's a passion. It's something I really enjoy. I enjoy, like if a day goes without me visiting a site, that's not a complete day. So always I like that kind of site, the heart of creation, the heart of seeing ground mchanga within no minute. A skyscraper is a mall. Like, do you know Mytown, Karen?
Yes.
Yeah, that's one of
your properties.
One of developments. And I mean, the way it was, almost everybody comes there saying, I just saw some Mabatis put here within 6 months, and I come. It's thriving business. People are doing business. Everybody is coming shopping here. And that heart of creation is really, really exciting.
Yes.
And that's what keeps me moving. I don't think there's anything else I would rather be doing than real estate. Yeah.
Okay. So maybe we can get a bit of context from your background. So where did you grow up? How did you grow up? And what was money like for you when you were growing up?
Okay. I grew up in I was born in Isiolo. Grew up in between Meru and Isiolo. And of course, my grandfather was a serious business person. And he was actually in construction. He was doing but small time. So there back in the village, back in the Mashinani. But of course, to his level, that was big. I mean, with somebody who had just done a class 2. You know, my grandfather, he went to school. The moment he knew how to count hex, he knew the school was done.
Yeah.
So, and whenever he was doing construction, as a young boy, I always used to cry so that I follow him and see what he's doing. So that's where I created the interest for that. And of course, now I went to Utali College, which was out of the way, out of what I wanted to do. Then I found myself in America.
How did you find yourself in America?
It's quite a long journey.
Yeah.
But I worked for an airline called Air France after my graduating in Utali College. Then, as I was working for the airline, they closed down, and I developed interest of piloting. You know, while at the airport, the pilot is the real thing.
Yes.
So I found I applied for some schools there in America, Orlando Flying School. Then I went there, did it for like 6 months. When the airline closed down here, so after 6 months, I realized this is not my cup of tea. So I went back to real estate, which was my interest. And you know, by then in America, everybody was talking about real estate. When you open the TV, everybody is talking about real estate. And that was my area of interest. So I decided to look for a job in the construction industry. And I wanted to understand this industry intimately. So I said, I'm starting as a construction work. I need to understand how this is done. I did it for a while. Then, of course, studied about, there for you to be a realtor, you have to be licensed.
Yes.
And you have to study. You can't have a professional who is not trained.
Yes.
So I did some studies. Then with time, I worked for some companies in real estate industry.
This is all in America.
Oh, in America. Then with time, of course, I knew real estate without financing can't work. You need to understand, to know how the mortgages works. So I did a training on being a loan officer to understand the finances. Then with time now, I started, of course, being able to getting credit from the bank, buy a old house, refurbish, and sell it in the market. So it grew like that, one to another, to an estate, and there we were today. Come 2007, real estate market went down. And I asked myself now, do I change my career? What happens? And as I was doing my real estate there, of course, I was investing here in Kenya. I was doing some development here. So I decided now that I've earned all this knowledge, let me get back to my country and put the knowledge to use there. And I found myself in Mombasa, since there's a project I was completing there in Mombasa. While in Mombasa, that was 2008. While in Mombasa, now as I was, of course, overlooking the project being done, I had all the time. So I went around talking to contractors, talking to people in the real estate industry, and all of them, they told me almost anybody can build. People have the money to build, people have the land. But who do we sell to? And the more and more I talked to, the more I realized where the problem lies. And as a business person, as an entrepreneur, I know wherever there's a problem, wherever there's a challenge, that's where the opportunity lies. So we started a company called MySpace Properties. And then that's how it was born. Even before we had our office, we had a big billboard there, Nyari Bridge, with my number there.
And so what was the problem that you identified that you were solving?
Marketing, that was one thing. And very few people out of Mombasa knew about real estate in Mombasa. So it needed more exposure. They needed more marketing, people talking about it.
Okay.
So we started marketing real estate, of course, our own and for others. We also started the Mombasa Homes Expo, which we did 16 of them, Mombasa Homes Expos. Of course, Unique Homes Magazine. And Mombasa became investment destination. People opened their eyes on holiday homes, the Airbnbs, furnished units, which work there very well. So when the history of Mombasa is written, on the history of real estate, Mwenda Thuranira will feature somewhere. Yes.
Okay.
So now when it came to, now of course I was having so many clients, people like neighbors. I took them to Mombasa. And as I was serving them, I realized this minimal business is a serious business. This retail centers, minimals. So as I was doing research on it, I realized when you go to the West, when you visit America, South Africa, China, Europe, there are these minimals. But in Kenya, ni kiosk. So I asked myself, why can't we modernize these kiosks? That's why we came up with the concept of minimals, Mytown, and we are doing many of them. And we are also involved in many of these minimals, where we house like a petrol station, a supermarket, a kinyosi, a salon, and the rest. And now I saw growing that business in Mombasa was not much viable. Nairobi is where the decision makers are. That's where most headquarters.
What doesn't or didn't make it viable in Mombasa?
In Mombasa, of course, to come up with I went around for almost 5 years trying to raise funds for this project. And the moment you mention Mombasa, nobody could hear. But when you mention Nairobi, then people can connect with you. Since, as I told you, many decision makers are here. So that's why you see there are many minimals. There are minimals surviving in Nairobi and not as many in Mombasa or other cities.
Okay.
But of course, they are catching up with time. So the Mytown concept came to fruition after many years of struggle. And now, of course, our pilot project, the one in Karen, on Langata Road, opposite Karen Hospital, is there. And we are looking to doing more and more of those.
How much does it cost to put up a project like that?
A project like that, of course, land, you need land and you need construction. So for the land, we are talking about around 700 million.
To put everything together. To
Yes.
put everything together.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the business? How do, I mean, you've talked about doing a lot of research around mini malls and how it makes money. Basically, what's the business model? How essentially do you make money, and what are the margins that you then deal with?
Okay, of course, when it comes to retail real estate, it has the highest return, more than offices, more than apartments. And only in the retail, you can get even up to 15% return on your money. If you look at the residential, especially in furnished, we are talking about 6%. If you're looking at furnished unit, it's around 8% to 10%. Maybe offices, 10%. But retail, you can go even up to 15% or more. So the return on investment is higher on retail. But of course, you have to have good location. And good location means expensive land. So you have to deal with that.
Yeah, and so even to get to that 15%, how many people must you be averaging? What kind of traffic do you need to attract for you to even get close to that 15%? Because assuming you have what? A minimum would have maybe 20, 30 units, I don't know.
Yes.
How many, for even me as a business owner who wants to come and rent one of the stores, what kind of traffic would impress me to be like, okay, this is worth taking, putting my rent down on this pilot project and to see how this works?
Okay, of course, traffic is key. It's very important for these mini malls, but the bit of it, we put it in a neighborhood where there are many people, especially it's where we have the critical mass, where you have the combination of road users, people living around there. In fact, the 50% of people who support you, they're the people living within that area. The 50% are people who use the road. So we are looking for, when it comes to traffic, we need at least a minimum of 1 million visitors per month.
Per month. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I wanted to bring you back because there's something, it's just that we went down this path. But I wanted to understand, so when you were growing up, you talked about, getting interested in construction from your grandfather. Are there any specific money lessons that you took from him or from your folks or whomever it was that you've carried with you since?
Yes, one thing for sure, of course, capital is very elusive and it's something you really have to watch closely. And before you get into any project, it's good to understand the head game. How much money will you need? And of course, doing the numbers is very critical in any kind of project, especially when you're going to real estate. Since, as they say, women lie, men lie, but numbers don't lie. So when the numbers make sense, everything else will make sense. But there are sometimes in some other businesses when, you plan, you do projections and stuff like that. But when the rubber hits the road, you realize whatever you thought, vitu kwa ground is different.
Yes.
So it's a discipline you have to give yourself, and of course talk to many people, especially in our education system. We don't emphasize much on financial education. That's why I'm really liking. That's why when
you saw it, yeah.
When I saw it, I was like, you guys are on the right track.
Yeah.
For example, even me, as of today, I read about finances almost every day. I need to understand how finance works because I was not taught that in school. But now I need to understand, as a business person, you need to understand the numbers and how they works and what is yours and which is not. Yes.
Okay, fair enough. So even when you were transitioning back from the States and coming back here, were you using your own capital, money that you had raised to even start those first projects in Mombasa?
Yeah, of course. Since there I was doing real estate, and the beauty of it there, the credit system works very well. So being able to borrow and build and sell and pay off, it worked very well. So in fact, in America, all I used was credit. Whenever I had some cash, I used to buy property here in Kenya. So that's the way it worked. So when it came, of course, I had some properties here and there, maybe sold a few to build some others. I always advise people, I mean, real estate, you start from somewhere. Start what you can. Start where you are. If you can afford a plot worth 500, buy that.
Yeah.
Like I remember my first property was some small piece of land at the board of Meru in Isiolo. And it costed me 250,000. It took me 6 months to pay it off. But what that did to me, it gave me the discipline to save money and pay off for the plot, and the appetite to invest some more in real estate. So that really helps.
Okay. And I mean, how much were you making when you were living in the States? Have you ever been in a period where you've experienced financial strife or financial?
Of course, but as I'm
times.
telling you, in America, till when there was a mortgage crunch, when the real estate went down,
in 2007.
When it was good, I mean, it depended on how many deals you can make. Since the banks were financing, and we were building the houses, so we had ready buyers, so we had no challenge at all. I mean, money was an everyday thing.
So is part of the bubble bursting one of the reasons why you decided to move back?
Yeah, of course, when the real estate market went down, and of course I had started doing my investment here, I thought it was prudent and best for me to bring my knowledge here and to come and share the knowledge of what I've learned out there.
Yeah. Okay. I maybe as we sort of try and wind up, I have a question for you as well on, I guess, the mini malls or the malls or what developers decide to do here, because there's a narrative on some Twitter streets around, why do we keep seeing new malls? We need to see other different types of investments, locations for entertainment, whether it's a stadium or whether it's those, what are they called? Indoor arenas and things like
facilities.
that. We need other types of investments other than just malls, because now, so for example, based on what you've described as a mini mall, I think if you're on James Gishuru, there's the one right across St. Austin's, the new one, right? There's a mini mall there. You keep going about 100 meters. There's the Shell on the left.
Java,
you keep
Lavington
going
Mall.
20 meters, there's Lavington Mall. Then there's the Java. Then you keep going. Then there's the Rubies before you get to the Kawangware Junction.
James Gishuru Gitanga.
Yes. And then Junction itself. So within that, three... And then this is, of course, not considering the small ones on the on the side, because there are some, if you're driving to a junction, there are some on the left hand side where there's restaurants, and then where there's what do you call it? This place where people go and chill. Anyway, my point is, in that 3 kilometer stretch, like there's 6, 7, 8, maybe possibly even 9, what you'd qualify as mini malls, and then a very big mall, right?
Yes, you see, in this area, when it comes to Lavington, Kilimani, and Kileleshwa and Alingam, there are people with income in that particular area. And nobody would open a shop if they have no customers. So it's market driven. And these neighborhood stores will see more and more of them. As the neighborhoods grow, also the need for the facilities
will grow.
I think if you're living somewhere, you'll need to catch up a meeting very quickly somewhere in a Java Cafe, CJ. You'll need to go for a kinyosi, to get a haircut. You need to go to a salon and stuff like that. And the closer it is to where you live, the better for you.
Yes.
Since nobody wants to drive maybe all the way to Thika Road.
Right.
If you live in Lavington or you go to Kangemi, you want the services near you. So what we are doing, we are bringing in the services in the neighborhood. Yeah. We are modernizing the kiosks. Yeah. The kiosks have been there for years. So we're just looking into modernizing them.
So you think that they will keep... We have not seen the end of them. They will keep...
As population grows, according to the research, they say by the year 2050, 50% of Kenyans will be living in urban areas. So we have not even scratched the surface yet. Now, 50%, let's say Kenya now.
Right now, what's the split right now? Urban vis-a-vis rural areas?
You see, like Nairobi, we have a population of 5 million. And if you look at Kenya population of 60 million, so you can imagine in the urban areas, maybe the main urban areas, Kisumu, Nairobi,
Nakuru,
Mombasa, we'll have maybe the time the population then will be 100 million. So we are looking at around 50 million people living in urban areas. So we have to be ready for that. Yeah. And you know, guys in the village are educated now. Ile siku ya jembe imeisha. The guys here in the village, if you go there right now, if you don't give somebody a power saw or a border, you're not talking. Yeah. You're not creating any opportunity. So, and as more guys get educated, the more they'll want to live in the urban areas. Yeah.
Okay. And where is your money now? Where have you invested your money right now?
For me, real estate is
it has all of your money.
Real estate is what I believe in, and it's what I know. So sometimes when you make an investment too, you have to understand, you have to know the business. So real estate to me, hata ukiniamsha asubuhi, usiku, we talk real estate, naielewa. Yes. So most of my investment is in real estate. Stocks have invested in stocks before, but disappointing.
In terms of the return or
in
the
terms
money?
Of the return.
Yes. So you said it's fine.
I said that's not my cup of tea.
Yeah.
Of course, being able to buy stocks, unless now you are looking at it on a daily basis, to be able to buy, sell.
Yeah.
But for me, since my expertise in real estate, I would rather stick to my lane.
Okay.
Yes.
As we wind up, I want to ask you about this 5-year process, because you said it took you about 5 years to raise capital to be able to do the Mytown Mall pilot project in Karen.
Yes.
Aren't you talk to us a bit about what it was like to raise money and the journey you went through to raise money for that project? I know the initial bit you said, initially you wanted to try Mombasa, but nobody was willing to put money into Mombasa. But where then do you find this 700 million to put up this pilot project?
Of course, that's quite a challenge. I also did other development in Mombasa, and we were involved in so many of them, not necessarily ours, but for other people. And within that time, I had built my networks. So, of course, I visited almost all the banks regarding this Mytown minimum business. And they didn't seem to understand. But the more the banks I visited, the more I learned what I needed to do. The more I polished on my idea. I even went to stock exchange. In fact, we were listed under Ibuka program at Nairobi Stock Exchange. And via that one, the money was not forthcoming. So eventually, I got a partner. I got a partner who is able. So we partnered with a partner called Mr. Anil Samani of AMS Properties. Then we came up with it. In fact, that's another story. When I visited him, we always talk a lot, but I never told him about my idea. But at one point, I went to his office and told him, I need a connection. Actually, I had not gone to ask for investment from him. I went for a connection. Then he told me, how much money are you looking for? I told him 20 billion.
20 billion?
20 billion to be able to actualize this project. He told me, kijana, 20 billion upeleka wapi? Then I had to explain my project.
Yes.
And the moment I explained to him...
Sorry, why 20 billion?
No, since we are doing many of them.
Okay. Yes. Okay, sorry.
50 or 20 of them.
Yes.
So the guy, the moment I explained to him, I think he could have seen the passion in me. He could also have seen through my learning process, through being told no, nilikuwa nimeiva. So it took me 5 minutes explaining to him. He stood up and said, we're in business. This money, whenever it comes from, we'll do it together. And voila.
And the rest is history.
The rest is history.
Okay.
Now we are moving from one project to another. And now the financiers who didn't want even to listen to me, right now, they are always lined up. Please, give us one. Let's finance you. Let's do this. But anyway, now we are better.
Yeah.
We are better.
I mean, and what makes your Mytown Mall stand out from the rest? What makes it unique from any of the others that we see?
Yes,
that makes it such a viable commercial property?
our main selling point is convenience. If you look at where we are located, we are in between the giants, Galleria, the Hub, Waterfront, Crossroads Mall. So we had to offer something different. And we borrowed from, of course, I travel a lot from what I've seen across the world. And we invested a lot of time. During Corona time, actually, we sat down with the professionals and we crafted, changed till we had the right idea. And of course, when you look at Mytown current, there's nothing like that which you have seen around here. In fact, it's now people are trying to copy it, but it's a concept which I think will work for this market, and I've seen it work in other markets. So even here, it has worked well, and even in our future now we polish now from what we have to even better options and better solutions.
Okay. Maybe the last question, as we finish, without having to give away your IP or a specific idea that makes it really work, are you able to give me a practical example of something that you were engineering or that you kept working at that then you then got perfectly that other people are struggling to get? I don't know if is it about the way the layout of the mall is it about, because in my head, as a layman, for me, retail structure is a retail structure. You walk in and there's shops and people have put spaces for shops and and that's it. So I'm asking, I guess curiously, what are the things that you really took into consideration that practically made this one unique and is making it really take off as opposed to the rest?
Yes. Now, throughout the years, neighbors came to Mombasa almost 11, 12 years ago by now. And I was involved in sourcing them space, getting space for them, leasing, negotiating, understanding the challenges they face from a client perspective, what a supermarket would want somewhere, and also what a landlord, what can you put up which works. So I came from the marketing perspective, understanding what the clients want. Let's say, what does a chemist need? What does a restaurant need? What does a petrol station need? So with all that now, to translate that to the ground is what really makes it work. And planning ahead, having a leasing strategy. Let's say if you rent to one chemist, that's it. We give exclusivity. If we have one kind of a restaurant maybe selling pizzas, we don't give two. Since when you give two, they compete on pricing, stealing stuff from one another, they will not be successful. And if your tenants are not successful, you as the landlord, you will not be successful. So the leasing strategy is very, very important, and being able to plan ahead. Like, for example, when I'm involved in planning on malls, I can almost tell you which client will go where. So as I'm planning for that client. I'm not doing just a speculative work of building and sitting down and waiting. We almost know who we want there. So when you plan with the client in mind, and then you plan for the people coming to buy from those clients, how is the parking? Like if you look at Mytown, it's just open, nice parking, visibility, good location, easily accessible. We are selling convenience, which is very important. Since if you look at, for example, parking, the people who charge parking, in many of our malls, we don't charge parking because the parking process alone takes almost 20 minutes. By the time you go, fungua boot, take card, then go look for somewhere to pay for that card. The whole process is almost 20 minutes. And nowadays, people don't have time. People want in and out. And in fact, in our malls, since we are selling convenience, we are looking for somebody being there for 30 minutes maximum. You come, you park, you go to a shop, you get what you're getting, you leave. Yes.
So do you then move because of course parking is a source of revenue for a lot of the malls. So do you move that revenue then and you put it onto your possible tenants?
Revenue for parking?
Yes, because I mean the way a regular mall would work is I would make money from the parking, right? Yes. I would pay 100 bob. The mall gets a portion of that 100 bob that I've paid. But now you're saying with the mini malls, there's no parking fee. So I'm wondering, is it revenue that you've done away with completely? Or have you pushed that potential 50, 60 bob onto your tenants?
No, in fact, when you look at it, for a minimum, I've told you it's almost a minimum of 30 minutes.
Yes.
Somebody in and out. And a person would rather even drive further than go somewhere where they'll pay for parking. So for me, I would rather have the traffic at my mall
Then
doing shopping than me charging parking and losing 50%. Yes, I would rather recover that in other ways. You know, as I told you, if your tenants are happy, you as the landlord, you'll be happy.
Yes. I see what you're saying. Okay, that makes sense. I think that's a really good sort of breakdown of the minimal and how you've done it and the things to take into consideration. Final bits. Any last thing you want to say around finance, whether it's about real estate, whether it's around your personal journey, anything that you want to potentially share?
No, of course, it's to appreciate the viewers for today for watching Financially Incorrect. And do they watch it so that they can be correct or what?
I think it's just to watch it and see how other people are doing things. That's it.
Okay. So this is very important. That's why I love your show.
Yeah.
And of course, getting educated about matters finance is very important. And not just doing it once, doing it again and again and again.
Yes.
Since even if we're in a Chanuka, some things you can't learn just even in school. You have to run on the ground. And if you have experts available to you here, then nani kama wewe.
Yeah,
yes.
Exactly. Awesome. Thank you very much for coming.
Thank you,
Financially
Barrack.
Incorrect. We'll see you guys next week on Friday we'll see you guys next week for the next episode of Financially Incorrect.
Okay.
All right.